Hello, I hope you all are doing so well. I want to talk about sacred partnership. I feel like this just keeps coming up and I just keep avoiding talking about the mechanics of this. So it's challenging because it's not rooted and set in stone yet, right? We are building this. So every time I try to make a video, I'm spinning out into all these different areas because there's so many components to this. So I'm going to do my best. I never really stay on topic because I don't plan my videos. It's just what flows through. So we'll see where this goes. But I want to talk about, well, we start at the beginning, right? And this is what's beautiful about this process right now, is that we are building it. It is evolving. And the only way it can evolve is as we move through it. So we do kind of have, even though we don't have a manual or an index about how to do this, we are creating it as we go. True sacred partnership that is connected to the energy of the core of who we are, to our source power, has not been here. This is brand new. Brand new. We've been trying, inherently we know this, these feelings inside of us, these desires, these dreams that we have about what love is supposed to be like, what relationship is supposed to be like, are true. And yet when we have attempted to establish this, we run into all kinds of garbage. And of course that makes sense because there's so much distortion here, right? And the purpose of the distortion is to stop this energetic meld, this alchemy, what we are truly capable of doing. And yet we're in a time now where that doesn't matter any longer, and we can really come in and start to root this in. So I want to talk about how this works, how this looks, how this feels, so that we can all start to attune to this energy and start to build energetically as we begin to anchor this physically, so that we do have more of a sense, in a more tangible way, of this path. Because again, we inherently know this, right? We inherently already have this inside of us. As I was walking the other day, I had this realization of when I was in past relationships, right? It was always the same. I was so committed. I was so in love. I was so sure my love was going to conquer the world. Nothing could stand in our way. There was nothing that would come that we wouldn't be able to overcome. And I was so committed to the other person, to the relationship, and to the future of what we would build together. And time after time, right, it all kind of started to fall apart, to the point where we start to walk around thinking we're broken and there's something wrong with us and we're unlovable. And yet what I have found, my feelings in all of those relationships were very much real, very much right on, very much accurate and appropriate. But the right person was not there to work with what I was bringing to the table. I was not being met with that same desire, devotion, drive, presence, commitment as I was bringing. And in every relationship, those core feelings have been the same. My relationship to that physical human person, of course, is different because they are their own unique energy, right? But this core of the love, the true love, that solid, bright, powerful, blinding light that I feel, not blinding, that might not be the right word, right? But that self kind of perpetuating, fueling, unlimited power source that I would feel is very much true. And yet it wasn't being received, right? And so if there's no recognition and there's no resonance, this dies out. So I'm not broken. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not codependent. I don't overlove. I don't overgive. I'm trying to do this with someone who is not like me, who is not made like me, who is not of the same thing as me, or is carrying too much of whatever else that they don't remember that this is the key to relationship, right? Or because the trauma and the wounding and the awful experiences teach us to release these layers of trauma in our human experience, we hadn't quite made it back to that core, right? However we want to look at it. And there's multiple layers here, so you can't just say one thing about it and like, that's it, it's black or white, right? Like, I've always been right and someone else has to catch up to me, or yeah, I had my own trauma. There was a lot that I learned along the way, right? But the point is that I'm recognizing now that, whoa, wait a minute. I've had this feeling before of like, I am all in, I am here, and we are going to make this happen. It's the same feeling, that core light of sacred partnership. But I was trying to plant it in infertile soil that could not meet me, support me, sustain me where I was at, right? On my own, yes, I am all these things, but when you're trying to build more than who you are, that requires another energy field, right? And if you can't meet there at the base, nothing else matters. You can work your way around this in the beginning, right? And start to try to build up here. Let's make material things. Let's get married. Let's buy a house. Let's have children. But after a while, if that core merge, core recognition, core alignment, whatever we want to call it, that core anchoring of the source of who we are isn't there, we cannot sustain through all eternity, right? This will fall apart. So we're not wrong, we're not broken. We haven't found the right base yet. We haven't found the right connection. And even when we do connect with someone, there can still be lots of other things that are in the way of finding that core, right? And so what happens oftentimes in the very beginning, we're actually digging down. Where is the foundation, right? You know, depending on where you live in the world, foundations of buildings are built differently depending on the soil, right? If you live in a very sandy kind of area, you have to dig down deeper to find solid rock. You have to employ different kind of engineering techniques. And this is kind of what we have to do. We're excavating down deep into the core of who we are. Where is that solid foundation? Where's the solid foundation? Because if we're still feeling shaky, what we actually have to do is keep going down into our shadows, into our traumas, until we find that base where we do meet and merge, right? It's not about going up here. Well, let's go on a holiday weekend. Well, let's take a fun trip. Well, let's go spend some money and see, does it make us feel better? That's reversal energy right there, right? What we're doing is going down and looking, where is the base? Where's the base? And it's not, is this base there or not? Right? It's not, is it the right person or not? It's, can us as humans sustain the discomfort, the distortion enough to allow ourselves to find that base together, to look for that foundation, because we go down into the darkness, we go down into the discomfort, we go down into those not so good feeling places in order to find this base. And along the way of going down into that darkness, sometimes we have this recognition of, you know what, this actually feels good. I feel supported. You keep showing up. No matter how much I cry or feel like I'm falling apart, you keep reminding me that you're here with me. And so the journey down through the distortion can actually build what will be the future of your relationship as well, right? Because we are light beings, because we know how to alchemize energies, this is true, right? So in other energetic connections that may not be as compatible, right? It may not be that way. But we start to recognize that even in our pain, we can be in love. Even in our suffering, we can be in our joy of the experience. Because the reality is not that the suffering is our experience, and it's not that it's who we are, it's just something that's present in our human expression, right? And as we remember that, we start to feel more and more safe to start to explore the depths of who we are and to find that true foundation from which we're going to start building in this physical plane. So it isn't that when we meet the one, everything is perfect. Hopefully not, right? Because there's something else that's going on there, and generally that's a trauma bond, because what happens is we get stuck in that chemistry of the desire of having that connection in order to not look at the things we need to release, right? It's more of it's a way of avoiding the true work. I apologize, there's some cleaning going on next door. So what is happening right now, we are building these foundations and what I actually want to say is fielding these distortions. I just got this image of, being in a baseball field and having to get to that ground ball. And the thing I hate about those grounders is that it's always the fear that it's going to pop up and hit me in the face. What I'm talking about is as we start to form our partnerships, right? As we start to connect, we're moving through this physical reality where there is a lot of distortion. And so in these sacred partnerships are totally transformative, right? It's not just about the love relationship, it's about everything. Our work, our family, our homes, our communities. It touches every part of our life is touched. Our finances, our pets, all of it. It's everything. So this is enormous. And right now what's happening, this is not set here yet. We are formulating this. So in every area of our life, we're hitting into these distortions and we're having to plant the seed of light. So maybe that means we have to back off a little bit as we start to feel agitated and we're trying to figure out what is here, what is not here, what do we need to get rid of. But always we're coming back to this core recognition within ourselves and the other person, and the merge of that, knowing that we feel safe and supported, and we're able to be in our vulnerability to open up what we're feeling. Because if we cannot allow ourselves to tap into the feeling, the bad feelings, the unsettled feelings, the uncomfortable feelings, because that's where the distortion is, that's what the distortion is. If we cannot allow ourselves to express that, and we're not just talking about physically speaking, right? We're talking about holding space to open up and to look at what this distortion is, right? Because we don't know oftentimes. We start to have emotions, doesn't make sense with what we're actually logically thinking because we're hitting in. These two different worlds are meeting, right? So if we don't have the space and the safety in the relationship to feel like, okay, well, I have to say this. I'm feeling really angry. And I don't want you to get angry that I'm feeling angry because I know these feelings don't really match into what you're saying. You know, it's this puzzle that we're having to shift and figure out. And what is most vital is, again, that we have that core root, safe space, that hearth of the home, that light in the center of this temple, that we are together to be able to work through these things. So it's not about, we're going to get it right the first time, and if it doesn't work, then it's not meant to be. Or, okay, we're going to make this decision and we're going to do this, and it didn't work out, there's something wrong. No, this is the creative process, and this is what we are having to learn now as we release out of these old ways of being, as we release out of the trauma fields that have been our experience. Creativity in the physical now is about putting it out there and seeing how it works, and then reassessing. Do we need to scrap the whole thing? What pieces are we taking? And we try again. This is the creative process. And if we were not raised this way, it's going to be a bit challenging because we start to think, well, trial and error means there's something wrong with me. I don't know how to do it. No. But that's just a natural part of the creative process, right? When we talk about source creation, we talk about masculine and feminine energies, right? There is a creation, there is a birthing of an idea, right? But part of why we have so much distortion here is because nothing ever came back in and reassessed and said, is this in alignment with our energy? Is this in alignment with our desires and with our integrity? And so we are going through the actual source creation process here in the physical body, and it's done through sacred partnership. It's not done through an individual energy field. And again, we're talking about so many different layers and levels here, right? There's a whole different way of working when we are within our own energy and we're healing our trauma and we're creating a life for ourselves, right? But the goal is to do this with others, in community, in relationship. And it's an entirely different way of working with energy, right? So just because we try something and it doesn't work out the first time doesn't mean this whole thing is wrong. Right? That's the Dark Mother. That's that Adam and Eve story. That's what all this indoctrination wants you to believe, right? Is that you don't know how to do it. Creation means that we have an impulse, right? We have an idea, we have an impression. We're coming from this place ultimately of love, right? That's the best way to describe this energy, this pure integrity, pure love. It wants nothing, it needs nothing, it just is. It just desires to exist. That existence, that frequency is enough. Just existing means something is of this source light. We don't have to validate it. We don't have to explain it. It just is, and it feels amazing and wonderful. And so this is what we're doing, right? We are trying to recreate this energy that we feel, this true love, pure source, true love in everything. And so as we attempt to put that out there, right, everyone that we encounter, because this touches every area of our life, everyone that we encounter is bringing their own trauma, their own wounding, their own patterns, whatever. As the light hits into that, it's going to shake that up. And so it's not going to be readily apparent what's going on all the time, right? So we plant those seeds, our light hits into it, and we reassess. And those who are also hungry to reconnect into the knowing of their own light will quickly adjust. Those who have more work to do, who aren't quite aware or quite ready, are gonna agitate and try actually to make this energy go back to their way, right? And what they're gonna do is project their own trauma into the relationship, into the connection. And this is where we continue to move forward and say, okay, I see you. And yet you can stay there. We're not here to tell anyone what to do or how to be. We're just here to plant these seeds and to build this path. So most importantly, to recognize this core energy, right? This true love feeling that we brought with us. It's who we are. It's not even about, is it here or is it not? It is. Can we find it? Can we connect to it? And can we hold into it as our truth? Not allowing ourselves to be pulled out, not allowing ourselves to be agitated by anyone else's trauma, because that's what starts to happen. It gets projected onto our light. And we're here to create this wave through all of that, right? So obstacles are an inherent part of this journey. It's an important part of this journey. Otherwise, what are we doing? What would we be doing here? So there is in every moment, it starts to feel like a resuscitation of the light, right? There's this compression onto it, and then we assess and we allow this to breathe and to open up and to grow again. So it is this kind of continual wave of opening, integrating, feeling the compression, reassessing these external inputs. Is this true? Is this not? Do we take this? What do we do with this? This is not easy, because it's not just about our one-to-one relationship. That relationship hits into everything. So it's everything. Our whole entire world now is running on this energy base, which is the pure core of who you are. So most vital, as we've always said, right, is to know this feeling inside of you, to know this space, to know this energy, to keep checking in with this, to keep coming back to here. And so whatever it is you do, whatever your practice is, it's to make sure that what that is for you, you know where that is. You know what that feels like. You know how to get there, right? Whether it's through yoga, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through singing, whether it's through walking nature, whether it's through working out. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you have that knowing of that space in you, of that energy in you, and that this is your truth, and this is where you are building from, right? So no matter if you are, in a store, in a job, in a, whatever it might be, and it feels uncomfortable and you feel agitated, it's like, yeah, of course you're going to feel agitated, because your light is hitting into this, because that distortion is hitting into you. But it's to know that it's okay. It's okay. It's part of who we are. It's part of this experience, because we're coming in as pure light into a realm of distortion. So if anything, it's like, yeah, it validates who you are. But to know this alchemical process, and more than that, right, this is what we would describe as the Christ consciousness light, which, again, labels, whatever. That energy is about, no matter if it's distortion or purity, darkness or light, I will take whatever it is and I will use it to actually build my light. I'm going to use it to empower me. This is the code on which we're built, right? We have this inherently within us. So rather than freaking out when we start to feel agitated, this is who we are. This is how we're built. We are actually built to be able to take that and use it to our advantage. So a while back, I stopped seeing it as a battle between light and dark. That doesn't matter. Whatever I hit into, it becomes light. That's what Christ consciousness is. That's what being a light being is. Which means that if we are finding ourselves in a place of agitation and stagnation for a really long time, we need to do something. That's not appropriate, because that's not who we are. That means we've gotten stuck in something, right? Because we should be able to take whatever it is, to learn a new lesson, to figure our way around it, to transmute it, to shift it, whatever it is, right? To learn to live without that, because maybe it wasn't supposed to be a part of our reality. That's what we have to be careful of, because in this realm, there's a lot of talk of, well, the light will come in and the light will eventually shift it and it will change. No, you're the light. You are the one who is to be shifting and changing. So even if you're waiting, observing a situation, right? Okay, we can take that time to see if there's going to be a shift in that external reality. But how are you feeling internally in the meantime? Are you on edge? Are you within constriction? Are you feeling awful? This is where we have to start to differentiate a bit, right? The separation between ourselves and another energy field. Even if there's a rift in between our energy fields, at the core, what I'm always searching for and I'm always wanting to come back to is my center, my good way of feeling, right? That's when I know I'm rooted into my light and I'm not allowing that external distortion and darkness to shift my field. It's the other way around, right? So no, whatever is coming at me, I'm saying, you're going to empower me. This is going to empower me. I am going to overcome this, overtake this, right? It's not about launching a counterattack. It's about using what is coming up and reformulating, recoding it through the light. So we take it in. Maybe we have to throw it out because we're like, you know what? No, I'm not doing it. No, this is not even my route. I'm not even supposed to be here. Whatever it might be, right? But in every instance, there's a lesson in that too. So first and foremost, to remember, right? This way of feeling, this true love, who you are, this connection to source, this stillness, this power, this peace. This is it. That what comes at me may or may not be for me, but I'm going to run it through my energy and I'm going to find out. And I'm no longer going to stay in a place of stagnancy, place of discomfort, a place where I feel like I'm a prisoner. A place where I feel like the weight of the world is on my shoulders. I'm no longer taking on what is more than mine. As I understand it through my own field, I'm able to return what is not mine back out to the collective, to the other beings who are trying to run on my field, use my field, build through my field. So as we start to recognize the core of who we are and we start to move through these physical experiences now as we interact with other energies, that's where we start to build our heart light and our heart power, right? So that it starts to build this foundation. And from here, it's interesting because when I see these pyramids, sometimes I'll see them hitting into the front of the mind, sometimes I'll see them hitting into the heart. What we're starting to see now is that, and this wasn't true in the past, right? Because we had to use our conscious mind a lot to maneuver through these energies. But what's happening now is that we're able to hit into this, find this foundation, right? To build the heart resonance. And it's actually the resonance and the frequency of this heart that is starting to radiate out, right? And this is what we're actually building our new consciousness on now, is what we feel through our bodies. Before, a lot of what we were feeling, we were having responses to past trauma, right? And this can still be happening if we haven't done our inner work. But for the most part, if we're aware of our patterns, we're aware of what's been going on for us, where we are moving to is that the feelings that we are feeling are actually about the truth now, rather than an emotional flashback or a reaction to past trauma. So that wisdom, it's body wisdom now, it's emotional wisdom, actually where we're starting to build our reality from. So it's a very different way of navigating, a very different way of being in this energy, in this presence. I had an experience the other week where there was an issue that had come up, right? And logically in my mind, I was thinking, okay, this is the right, it makes sense. This is the right thing. You know, you want to do this for the kids. That's totally appropriate. Like, they are first and foremost. And yet when I was asked, well, you're really silent, what are you feeling? And I thought, oh God, well, I'm feeling really sad and really angry. And it doesn't match the story that I'm trying to align to in my head, logically. And so what I started to realize was, well, my sadness and my anger is actually true. It's actually right. But this whole story that was being told through this experience, like recognizing how much of it was based on distortion. And we've talked about these narratives, right? These stories that we build because we try to make sense of the insanity. So what's happening through these sacred partnerships is we are dismantling that entire story because it's built on a distorted energy, right? The whole story now starts to go away. And so what we are doing through our bodies is tapping into the truth of the energy, which we feel and know. And there are other ways too, but most predominantly it's going to show up body. So we're having now to separate and say, okay, this is the story, it makes sense, and yet here's the truth of what I'm feeling, and it does not match up at all. So what's going on here? And then from there, this is where we're building the foundation of our new energy. And the beauty about these relationships is that this foundation, then, it's like putting in the keys, right? Once you have these keys in place, or let's even say with the DNA, right? We have basic building blocks, and then you combine it in all these different ways, right? It's like the keys and the building blocks of our foundation. Once we find them, this relationship becomes totally self-correcting. It has a life of its own. And that's what relationship is supposed to be, right? It becomes this third energy. And again, even when we say things, I know there's a lot of stuff in the past about, twin flame and whatever, all this kind of stuff. It's not quite that. We grow a new space from which to continue to grow and evolve and build our material reality, along with shifting the energies we're still coming into contact with. So this is not something we figure out fully in the mind, and it's not something we figure out fully in the energy. It's a merging and a separating and a reorganizing through all of this, right? It's a reorganization. Again, it's a bit of a transition phase. So this energy is incredibly powerful. It is completely life-changing. And it's a gift to be able to work in this way. And so when you recognize that and you know that, you're not going to take this for granted. You're not going to want to walk away. You're not going to have to walk away. Because you will know that energy is there to meet you. You will know how to find your way back to center. You will feel safety. You will feel security. And in that energy, this is when the body really starts to drop its trauma responses, right? We can do an enormous amount of mental healing of our patterns. We can do a lot of body work. But the truth is that until we come in contact with that other being, that other individual that can truly hold this resonance with us as a light being, this may not be true for other kinds of people, right? But we're talking about a specific thing here. When you come into this energy, this is when the true healing occurs. The true shedding of the history of the trauma that you have been carrying for lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. And it's a completely different experience than we have ever had. So, again, this is the world. This is our world. It is everything. It's not just about the relationship. It's not just about the intimacy. It's about all of it. And it's an enormous task. And yet, because it's so incredibly powerful and amazing, it is the biggest gift ever. And it is the greatest honor to be within this energy. And this is what the new reality feels like. There is no questioning. There is no doubting. There just is the presence of the light. Yes, we have to work to bring it forward still. We're still evolving this, still anchoring this, still growing this. But the core of it, which has always been here, it's rooting in now. And so when we feel off base, when we feel pulled out, the reason I'm making this video is so that you know there's something much greater going on here. This is what I would describe as the birth of the Christ consciousness through the human field. Taking this and embodying it in our physical experience, our physical expression, and the shifts that start to happen in your biology, in your cells. In many ways, part of these things people talk about, well, our bodies will start to reverse age, our bodies will start to do all these things, right? Our bodies cannot do that when they are running these stress programs. So the first step is for the body and the biology to start to release, to de-stress, right? Because that's really just an attack on the body, to keep it in this panic state, to keep it in a fear state, to keep it looking for solutions to the fear state, which just perpetuate the fear state, right? So we are just at the beginning stages of this, but this is for you to know this is here, this is coming in, this is what we are all going to be connecting to. This is the purpose. And it is going to go beyond anything we can possibly imagine through our human mind at this time. I'm going to leave this here. I hope that was helpful and made some sense. Again, I don't plan these videos. I don't ever know what I'm going to say. It's just kind of a walk through what we're feeling and what's here. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Take good care.